Hey everyone, welcome back to Dead Reckoning TV. I'm your host, Jay Friesen, here with Dr. Brian Madsen at the Fieldhouse Cafe in Billings, Montana, looking at Christianity and where those meet the issues we face each and every day. And we've been looking at the topic of food all month. And right now we're going to take it another step deeper and look at preferences and laws. And sometimes our preferences don't make the best laws and probably shouldn't make the best laws, but we want to make them laws, don't we, Brian?
Well, we live in a time when food is becoming more and more an occasion for division, even among Christians and the Christian community. It's vegetarian or vegan or organic, or it's got to be whole grain, 7-grain, cracked grain, but under no circumstances whatsoever can it be unbleached white flour grain. This is becoming more and more popular, these sort of food movements, and people feel very, very passionately about food, and we can certainly understand why that is. We've seen that in our previous 2 episodes. People attach religious and moral significance to their food. And Christians are certainly not immune to that sort of temptation. Well, here's the fundamental rule for how Christians should navigate these issues. Not only did Jesus declare all foods clean and say it's not what's outside that defiles you, it's what's inside, but his apostle Paul warned the Christian community that there would always be people seeking to infiltrate the Christian church, and he says, teach them to abstain from certain foods. He tells Timothy in the book of 1 Timothy, he says, for everything God created is good. First article of the Christian Creed. Everything God created is good, and nothing is to be rejected if it is received with thanksgiving, because it is consecrated by the word of God and prayer. In other words, as we saw last week, the stuff is not the problem. And importantly in our day, I think, is for Paul in his context, not only is the stuff not a problem, how the stuff was produced, how the stuff got from the kitchen to my table is not of moral consequence. In Paul's day, the Jewish Christians were absolutely appalled at these Gentile Christians who were consuming and eating food that in its preparation was performed and done by pagan priests and devoted to and sacrificed to a pagan god. And then the Christians were taking this food, the Gentiles were taking this food and eating it. And of course, the Jewish Christians were appalled by this. And Paul says, this is not of moral significance. This is not of religious significance, how this food was prepared. I think that's actually quite relevant for our day, because I think there's a lot of movements in our culture right now that have a real problem with how food is produced. There are Christians appalled that other Christians are eating, chicken that was raised on a chicken farm somewhere and pumped full of hormones or whatever, or it was grown on a huge commercial farm, and this is really morally problematic. Paul, the analog of Paul's day is, hey, if it's not a problem that this food was sacrificed to an idol, it's not a problem that it was grown on a big commercial farm. Now, don't get me wrong. I love eating at places like the Fieldhouse Cafe, okay? Locally grown, fresh produce, organic, does seem to taste better. It's bursting with flavor. It's a wonderful thing, and I'm so glad that the market allows for this kind of an establishment. But the point is that my love of that kind of food is a preference. It's not a law. It's not of moral significance. The moral categories of right, wrong, righteous versus unrighteous does not attach to food in a Christian worldview. Now, wise versus foolish can attach to a Christian worldview. It's probably not a good thing to eat a Big Mac for every meal, okay? But wise versus foolish is not right versus wrong. Preferences are not laws. Jesus solves our deepest spiritual needs. He solves the dysfunction and the uncleanliness that's in our own hearts that defiles us. And by doing that, he frees us to receive, as Paul says, everything with thanksgiving. The God who created the heavens and the earth, the God who made all things good, also made us to be his image bearers so that we can receive this incredible bounty from God and eat it and enjoy it and love it. It would be a real shame for Christians to deny their liberty, to deny that liberty that Jesus bought with his own blood, to deny that liberty and start to view, once again, the stuff as the problem. That's what Jesus came to conquer, the view that the stuff, the offloading of our problem on the stuff. Jesus says, that isn't the problem. I have solved your deepest need. And he's bought us great liberty. So making our food preferences, food laws, is a denial of Christian liberty. And in the end, as I said, is a denial of the first article of the Christian Creed, that I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. Stuff is not the problem.
Man, thanks so much, Brian. You've been watching Dead Reckoning TV, and next week we're going to look at a topic that I'm pretty excited about, idolatry. It's not an old school concept. So we're going to take a look at why some of these preferences of ours end up being laws. I'm Jay Friesen. That's Dr. Brian Mattson. You're watching Dead Reckoning TV. Give us a holler on Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Vimeo, other options out there. We'd love to hear from you, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
Perfectly legitimate good things, like a good job, material prosperity, might be a material possession. A perfectly good thing makes a really bad God. We can't make good goods bad gods. When we do that, we will not end up loving our neighbor. We will end up hating our neighbor, that person who gets in the way of what we really want.